I stood there, my hand still gripping the cold brass of the doorknob, watching my entire future disintegrate in high-definition 4K resolution. It was exactly 14 hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. 14 hours. The irony wasn't lost on me. My life was built on precision. I'm a trauma surgeon. I fix shattered bones. I calculate risks in millimeters and seconds. But standing in the doorway of the Carver family library, surrounded by the smell of leather-bound books and generational wealth, I realized I had missed the most obvious fracture of all. I found my fiancé, Elias, with his dress pants around his ankles, bent over the antique mahogany desk that probably cost more than my medical school tuition, and he wasn't alone. Wrapped around him, her designer dress hiked up to her waist, was Veronica. Veronica, my best friend's girlfriend, the woman who had helped me pick out my flowers, the woman who was supposed to be standing next to me in photos tomorrow. For exactly 3 seconds, the room was suspended in a vacuum. Nobody moved. It was like a freeze frame in a horror movie right before the jump scare. My brain, trained for trauma bays and emergency protocols, did the only thing it knew how to do. It cataloged the scene. I saw the sheen of sweat on Elias's forehead. I saw the way Veronica's hand was tangled in his hair I had run my fingers through just that morning. I saw the smear of her signature red lipstick. Ruby Woo, she'd told me. It's a classic. Streaked violently across the collar of his crisp white shirt. The air smelled like old paper, expensive scotch, and her perfume. That cloying floral scent that was currently saturating the oxygen I was trying to breathe. Elias started, scrambling backward. His movements were clumsy, panicked. He nearly tripped over his own pants as he tried to pull them up, his face flushing a deep, mottled crimson. "It's not what it looks like," Veronica added, breathless, sliding off the desk. She tugged at her dress, trying to cover herself, but the damage was done. The visual was burned into my retinas. "Not what it looks like," I repeated. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, calm, detached. "Because it looks like you're screwing my fiancé on his grandfather's desk 14 hours before our wedding." Behind me, I heard a sharp, ragged intake of breath. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated pain. Julian. I had forgotten he was there. We had been looking for them together. We had walked through the estate, checking rooms, laughing nervously about where they could be hiding. Now he was standing directly behind me, looking over my shoulder at the woman he loved and the man I was supposed to marry. Elias finally got his zipper up. He smoothed his shirt, regaining a fraction of his usual arrogant composure. He looked at me, then at Julian, then back at me. And then he said the words that would haunt me and fuel me for the rest of my life. "If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you." Elias didn't apologize. He didn't drop to his knees and beg for forgiveness. He didn't cry. Instead, he let out a sigh, an annoyed, impatient sigh, like I was a waitress who had brought him the wrong order. "Relax, Mal," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. A smirk played on his lips, terrifyingly casual. "It was just physical. You're overreacting. Like always." The world tilted on its axis. "I'm overreacting?" I asked, stepping fully into the room. "I just walked in on you having sex with my best friend's girlfriend, and I'm overreacting." "Stop being so dramatic," Elias snapped, his voice gaining that familiar edge of condescension. "You're being insecure. It didn't mean anything. It's just stress, pre-wedding jitters." "It was just a physical release." He said it with such conviction, as if physical release was a valid medical prescription for pre-wedding anxiety that involved sleeping with a bridesmaid. "Just physical," I repeated, tasting the bile in the back of my throat. "Like that makes it better?" "It does make it better," Elias insisted, stepping toward me, hands outspread as if he were the reasonable one in the room. "There are no feelings involved. It's biology, Mallory. You of all people should understand biology. You're a doctor, for God's sake. Don't act like a prude." I stared at him. This man whom I had defended to my parents, whom I had rearranged my entire surgical career for, was standing there, reducing a double betrayal to biology. "You think this is about prudishness?" I asked, my voice dropping an octave. "You think loyalty is a biological suggestion?" "I think you're tired," Elias said, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. "You've been working 80-hour weeks. You're exhausted. You're not thinking clearly. You're seeing things through the lens of your own stress. We were just blowing off steam." Behind me, Julian finally moved. He stepped into the room, his movements stiff, robotic. His face was pale, his eyes wide and unblinking. "Blowing off steam?" Julian asked, his voice cracking. "With my girlfriend?" Veronica flinched. She was leaning against the bookshelves now, arms crossed defensively over her chest. "Julian, baby," she started, her voice taking on a high, pleading pitch. "Please, it's not... We didn't plan this. It just happened." "It just happened," Julian repeated, a hysterical laugh bubbling up in his throat. "You just happened to trip and fall onto his dick? In the library? With the door closed?" "You're being hysterical," Elias barked at Julian, stepping between him and Veronica. "Look at you. This is exactly why she needs an outlet." "You're suffocating her." "I'm suffocating her?" Julian looked like he'd been slapped. "I'm the one suffocating her." "Yes," Elias shouted. "Both of you. You're so intense, so emotional. Mallory is always at the hospital, always saving lives, always making me feel like I'm second place to a broken femur. And you're just needy. We needed a break. We needed to feel something simple." I felt a coldness settle over me. It was the same sensation I got when a patient flatlined, the moment where panic is useless and only procedure matters. My surgical detachment activated. "So," I said, my voice cutting through the noise like a scalpel, "if it was just physical and just a stress reliever, why is her lipstick on your collar?" Elias froze. His hand went to his neck. "And why," I continued, stepping closer, "do you have scratch marks on your neck that are already welting? That suggests passion, Elias. That suggests intensity. That doesn't look like just physical stress relief. That looks like you were enjoying it." "You're crazy," Elias spat, his face turning purple. "You're unhinged." "I'm unhinged?" I laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "I'm not the one gaslighting my fiancé while my mistress is standing 3 feet away wiping herself off with a cocktail napkin." Elias lunged for me. Not to hit me, I don't think, but to stop me, to grab my arm, to shake me into silence, to regain control of the narrative. "Stop it!" he yelled. I sidestepped him. 12 years of dodging gurneys and erratic trauma patients had given me reflexes he didn't account for. He stumbled past me, his dress shoes slipping on the polished wood floor. He crashed into the desk, and in his flailing attempt to stay upright, his arm swept a heavy, porcelain antique lamp off the edge. Crash! The sound was catastrophic. It shattered the tense quiet of the library and echoed out into the hallway. "You idiot!" Veronica shrieked, jumping back as shards of porcelain skittered across the rug. "Shh!" Elias hissed, eyes wide with genuine panic for the first time. "Keep it down!" But it was too late. The library door, which I had left slightly ajar, was pushed open fully. What on earth is going on in here? It was Constance Carver, Elias's mother. She stood in the doorway draped in silver silk, her face a mask of practiced social confusion. But that mask slipped the moment her eyes adjusted to the scene. She took it all in with the precision of a hawk spotting a field mouse. Me, standing by the door, arms crossed. Julian, pale and shaking. Elias, red-faced and disheveled, standing over a broken family heirloom. And Veronica, looking like exactly what she was. "Mother," Elias stammered, straightening up. Mallory is having a breakdown. She's hysterical. She attacked us." "I attacked you?" I asked. raising an eyebrow. I haven't touched you, Elias. Though God knows the temptation is there. More people were crowding into the hallway behind Constance. I saw my parents. I saw Elias's father. I saw 3 of my bridesmaids holding champagne flutes, their smiles fading into confusion. The wedding planner, a woman named Sharon with a permanent clipboard, was trying to peek over shoulders. "Why is there broken glass?" my father asked, his voice booming. He pushed his way to the front, his protective instincts flaring. "Mallory, are you okay?" "She's crazy!" Elias yelled again, pointing a shaking finger at me. "She just started screaming and throwing things. She's jealous. She's making up insane stories because she's insecure." "Why are we on the floor?" Veronica said, trying to smooth her hair, playing along with Elias's lie. "She pushed us." "I pushed you?" I looked at the crowd. "They're saying I pushed them." "Mallory wouldn't hurt a fly," my mother said, stepping up beside my father. "Elias, what did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Elias shouted. "She's hallucinating. It's the stress. She needs a sedative." The crowd was murmuring now. Phones were coming out. I saw the telltale glow of screens recording. This was it, the moment of truth. "If I'm hallucinating," I said, projecting my voice so everyone in the hallway could hear, "then we should probably ask why the groom is half undressed in the library with one of the bridesmaids." Gasps ripple through the crowd. "Oh my God," someone whispered loud enough to echo. "She's lying," Elias screamed. "Am I?" I turned to the crowd, addressing them like a jury. "Look at his collar." Every eye in the room and the hallway swiveled to Elias's neck. He tried to cover it with his hand, but he was too slow. "That is ruby woo red," I said, pointing. "The exact shade Veronica is wearing right now, or, well, what's left of it on her lips." I turned to Veronica. Her mouth was a smeared mess. The red pigment dragged across her chin. She looked like a toddler who had gotten into a jam jar. "And the scratches," I continued relentlessly. "Elias, move your hand." "No," he snarled. "Move your hand," my father commanded. The authority in his voice, the voice of a man who had taught high school history for 30 years, made Elias flinch. He dropped his hand. There, on the side of his neck, were fresh, angry red welts, fingernail marks. "Did I do that, Elias?" I asked calmly. "From across the room? Or did Veronica do that while she was wrapped around you on that desk?" Constance stepped forward. Her face had gone from confused to volcanic. She walked right up to her son. "Elias James Carver," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Is this true?" "Mother, she's spinning this." "Don't lie to me," Constance snapped. "I can smell her perfume on you from here. The entire room smells like a French brothel." The crowd went silent. The only sound was the clicking of phone cameras. This was being live-streamed. This was going on Instagram stories. My humiliation, and his, was being broadcast in real time. Elias looked around, searching for an exit, searching for an ally. He found none. His father looked disgusted. My parents looked ready to commit murder. The guests looked shocked and thrilled by the drama. Elias faltered. His arrogance crumbled. He looked small. "It just happened. She came on to me." The hallway erupted. "Excuse me," Veronica shrieked, spinning on him so fast she nearly lost her balance in her heels. "I came on to you." "You did," Elias insisted, throwing her under the bus without a second thought. "You followed me in here. You started kissing me. I tried to stop it." "You liar," Veronica screamed, tears finally spilling over, mixing with the mascara and smeared lipstick. "You've been texting me for months. You told me you loved me." "You told her you loved her?" The question didn't come from me. It came from Julian. He stepped further into the room, past the broken lamp, past me. He walked until he was standing right in front of Veronica. He looked like a ghost. "Julian, no, listen," Veronica sobbed, reaching for his arm. He jerked back as if she were radioactive. "Don't touch me," he whispered. "Don't you dare touch me." How long? Julian asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. You said he told you he loved you. That doesn't happen in 5 minutes. How long have you been sleeping with him? Veronica looked at Elias. Elias glared back, shaking his head slightly, a silent command to shut up. But Veronica was in survival mode now. Elias had just blamed her. She wasn't going to go down alone. 6 months, she whispered. Speak up, I said. I don't think they heard you in the back. 6 months, Veronica yelled, turning to me. We've been seeing each other for 6 months. A collective gasp went through the crowd. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. 6 months, I calculated out loud. That's right around the time we booked the venue. That's half the time we've been planning this wedding. How many times? Julian asked, his voice breaking. How many times did you sleep with him? Does it matter? Elias groaned. It was just physical. It was just sex. It matters to me, Julian shouted, finally losing his composure. Tears were streaming down his face. I need to know. Give me a number. Was it once? Twice? Veronica looked down at her shoes. I don't know, she mumbled. Guess, Julian demanded. Maybe 40? 50? She whispered. I lost count. 50 times, Julian repeated, the air leaving his lungs. 50 times. That's twice a week, I said, my voice clinical, dissecting the data. That's a routine. That's a schedule. You fit 50 trysts into 6 months while I was working double shifts? You were never around, Elias yelled, seizing on the opening. You were always at the hospital, always on call. I was lonely, Mallory. A man has needs. So you slept with my best friend's girlfriend 50 times because I was saving lives? I asked. That's your defense? It's a relationship, Julian said, his voice hollow. That's not a mistake. That's a relationship. Julian reached into his jacket pocket. His hand was shaking so badly he struggled to get it past the fabric. Julian, don't, Veronica said, her eyes widening as she realized what he was doing. Please don't. He pulled out a small velvet box, black velvet, the kind that holds promises. I bought this 3 months ago, Julian said to the room, holding the box up. He didn't open it. He just held it like it was a grenade. I was going to propose next month. I was waiting until after your wedding so I wouldn't steal your thunder. He looked at Elias. I was going to ask you to be my best man. The cruelty of that statement hung in the air like smoke. Elias actually flinched. For the first time, he looked ashamed, not caught. Ashamed. Oh, Julian, I whispered. I hadn't known. I thought she was the one, Julian said, tears dripping off his chin. I was planning a life with her while she was doing this. He turned to Veronica. 50 times, he said again. You let me plan our future while you were sleeping with him 50 times. I love you, Julian, Veronica sobbed. I do. Elias meant nothing. He was just fun. You're my real life. I was your safety net, Julian corrected her. I was the guy you came home to after you were done with him. Constance had heard enough. She stepped forward again, her face hard as granite. Get out, she said to Veronica. Mrs. Carver, please, Get out of my house, Constance screamed, losing her composure completely. You are trash. You have humiliated this family. You are never welcome here again. And you, Constance turned to Elias. The wedding is canceled, obviously. Mother, wait, Elias started. Canceled, she barked. You will contact every single guest. You will explain what you did. You will not blame Mallory. You will tell them that you are a cheater and a liar. I can't do that, Elias protested. Think of the company, the reputation. You should have thought of that before you bent a bridesmaid over my father's desk, Constance yelled. I looked at Julian. He was staring at the ring box. Let's go, I said to him. Yeah, he whispered. Let's go. We walked out. We didn't run. We walked. Through the library door, past the gauntlet of shocked guests, down the grand staircase. "Maya, wait!" Elias called after me. I didn't turn around. "Don't look back," I told Julian. "Just keep walking." We made it through the foyer. My parents were right behind us, flanking us like bodyguards. My dad had his hand on my shoulder, a heavy, warm weight. "We're leaving," my dad announced to the room at large. "The rehearsal is over." We burst out into the cool evening air. The estate was lit up with fairy lights for the party that was supposed to happen. It looked beautiful. It looked like a lie. We kept walking until we reached the parking lot. Julian's car, a sensible sedan, nothing like Elias's flashy sports car, was parked near the back. As soon as we reached the gravel lot, the adrenaline crashed. My knees buckled. I grabbed the side mirror of a parked SUV to stay upright. My hands started shaking, violent tremors that rattled my bracelets. "Mel?" Julian dropped the ring box into his pocket and grabbed my arm. "You okay?" I tried to speak, but my breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. 50 times. "Julian, 50 times." "I know," he said, his voice wrecking. He leaned against the car and slid down until he was sitting on the gravel. He put his head in his hands and just let go. He sobbed, loud, ugly, heaving sobs that tore through the quiet night. I slid down beside him. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was still in trauma mode. I was still triaging the damage. But seeing Julian, my rock, my best friend, broken like this, that hurt more than the cheating. "We were so stupid," Julian choked out between sobs. "We were so blind." "We weren't blind," I said, staring at the gravel. "They were professionals. They gaslit us. They coordinated schedules. Remember the yoga classes, the business trips?" "Oh, God," Julian groaned. "The weekend in Miami. She said she was at an art fair." "Elias was at a pharmaceutical conference," I finished. "Same weekend." We sat there in the dirt in our formal wear, connecting the dots of our own destruction. My parents stood a few feet away, giving us space, guarding the perimeter. "What do we do now?" Julian asked, wiping his nose on his sleeve. "I don't know," I said. "But I'm not going back to that apartment tonight." "We're going to a hotel," my mother decided. "We are not going to your apartment, not with his things there." My dad drove. I sat in the back seat with my mom, who held my hand so tight her knuckles were white. We didn't go to a nice hotel. We went to a generic chain hotel near the airport, the kind of place where business travelers sleep for 6 hours and leave. Beige walls, abstract art, the smell of industrial cleaner. It was perfect. It was neutral ground. We checked into a room with 2 queen beds. My parents ordered room service, grilled cheese and fries, comfort food that none of us were hungry for, but we all needed to eat. We sat on the beds in our rehearsal dinner clothes. I was still wearing my white cocktail dress. I felt ridiculous. I never liked him, my dad said suddenly, dipping a fry into ketchup. I looked up. "What?" "I never liked Elias," he repeated. "I never trusted him." "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, feeling a flash of irritation. "If you saw something—" "Because you seemed happy," my mom interjected softly, "and because, well, he's rich, he's successful. We thought maybe we were just intimidated, that we weren't good enough for that world." "No," my dad shook his head. "That's not it. It wasn't the money." He looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. "It was the way he looked at you, Mallory." "How did he look at me?" "Like he was tolerating you," Dad said. The words landed heavy in the room. When you talk about surgery, about your patients, you light up. You become this force of nature. It's beautiful. But Elias? He never looked at you like that was beautiful. He looked at you like it was something he had to put up with. Like it was a quirk he was waiting for you to grow out of. I put my sandwich down. Tolerating me. "He wanted a wife who looked good on paper," Dad said. "He didn't want you. He didn't want the brilliance. He wanted the status." I thought about every time Elias had told me to leave work at work. Every time he'd checked his watch while I told him about a successful spinal fusion. "You're right," I whispered. "He hated my job. He hated that I loved it." "He was jealous of it," Mom said, "because you loved it more than you loved his money." I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, listening to my father snore softly from the other bed, staring at the blinking red light of the smoke detector. When the sun came up, it was March 22nd, my wedding day. The date on my phone screen mocked me. Saturday, March 22nd. I turned my phone on. It vibrated instantly, a continuous angry buzz that lasted for a full minute. 47 missed calls, 32 text messages, 14 voicemails. Most were from Elias. "Mal, please answer. It was a mistake. I love you. You're throwing everything away over nothing." Then the texts from guests. "Is it true? We're at the airport. Do we still come? Saw the video on TikTok. OMG, TikTok." I opened the app. And there it was. Someone had recorded the hallway confrontation. The video had 200,000 views. The caption read, "Groom caught cheating with bridesmaid 14 hours before wedding. Brutal." I watched myself pointing at the lipstick. I looked calm. I looked terrifying. I closed the app. I didn't cry. I felt a cold, hard rage settling in my chest. Surgical steel. I opened my text thread with my maid of honor, Sarah. Me. "Wedding is canceled. Long story. Please tell the others." Then I stood up. "Mom, Dad," I said, "get up." My parents sat up, groggy. "What time is it?" "It's 8 a.m., I said. "We're going to the apartment. I want his shit gone by noon." We met Julian at the apartment complex. He had rented a van and brought coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His eyes were puffy, his jaw set. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready." We entered the apartment. It was a time capsule. My coffee mug from yesterday morning was still in the sink. Elias's jacket was draped over the chair. It smelled like him. "Bedroom first," I said. We started packing. It wasn't gentle. We threw his Armani suits into cardboard boxes. We dumped his drawer contents without folding them. In the back of his closet, behind a stack of shoe boxes, I found it. A small black safe. "Julian," I called out, "look at this." I had never seen this safe before. We had lived together for 3 years. "What is it?" Julian asked, crouching beside me. "I don't know. I didn't know he had a safe." My heart started racing. This was it. This was where he kept the secrets. The burner phones, love letters from other women, hidden bank accounts, evidence of something even darker. "Can you open it?" Julian asked. "No." "It's digital." I tried his birthday. Error. I tried my birthday. Error. I tried our anniversary. Error. I tried Veronica's birthday. Julian knew it. Error. "Damn it," I hissed. I was obsessed. I needed to know what was in there. It felt like the key to understanding why he was such a sociopath. "We can pry it open," Julian said. He went to the kitchen and came back with a screwdriver and a hammer. We spent 45 minutes attacking that safe. We sweated. We cursed. I broke a nail. I channeled all my rage into destroying that metal box. I needed a reason. I needed a smoking gun that explained everything. Finally, the latch gave way with a screech of tearing metal. I ripped the door open. It was empty? No. There was something in the back, a stack of papers. I grabbed them, my hands shaking. I expected bank statements. I expected incriminating photos. It was high school yearbooks and a collection of baseball cards. "Are you kidding me?" I stared at the contents. "Baseball cards? That's it?" Julian asked, looking inside. "No secret family, no offshore accounts?" "Just nostalgia," I said, throwing the cards on the floor. It was a dead end. There was no grand conspiracy in the safe, just the mundane possessions of a man who liked baseball. It made it worse somehow. It made him human. I didn't want him to be human. I wanted him to be a monster. "He's just a guy," Julian said, kicking a yearbook. He's just a shitty, cheating guy. There's no master plan. Let's finish packing, I said, standing up. I want every trace of him out of here, now. Pass me the tape, I said, my voice hoarse. We had been at it for 3 hours. The apartment, once a carefully curated exhibit of our shared life, now looked like a warehouse after a looting. 12 cardboard boxes sat in the middle of the living room, filled with the debris of a 3-year relationship. Julian kicked a box labeled Elias Shoes toward the pile. He has more shoes than you do, he muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Who needs 6 pairs of loafers? They look exactly the same. They're not the same, I said, ripping a strip of packing tape with a violent screech. One is Gucci, one is Ferragamo, and one is, I don't even know, some Italian brand that costs more than my car insurance. I slapped the tape onto the box and smoothed it down with aggressive force. It felt good. The physical exertion, the ripping sound, the definitive seal of the cardboard. It was the only thing keeping the rage from boiling over into screaming. What about the golf clubs? Julian asked, pointing to the bag leaning against the wall. A set of custom Callaways, ironic, that he swore improved his handicap by 2 strokes. Box them, I said. Actually, no, they won't fit in a box. Just lean them by the door. If they get stolen, they get stolen. Mal, Julian said gently, you sure you want to just dump all this? We could put it in storage. Have his parents pick it up. No, I said, grabbing a stack of his medical journals, unread, mostly for show, and tossing them into a box with a heavy thud. Storage implies I'm keeping it safe for him. Storage implies I care about the preservation of his property. I don't. I walked over to the closet. His side was empty now, just a row of naked wire hangers jangling softly in the air conditioning draft. It looked like a skeleton. I want it out of my space, I said, turning to Julian. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and see his coffee maker. I don't want to trip over his dumbbells. I want to scour this place until it's sterile. Surgical, Julian noted, half smiling. Exactly, surgical. Amputation of the necrotic tissue. We started hauling the boxes. They were heavy, dense with the weight of expensive consumerism. We dragged them out the front door and into the hallway of the apartment complex. We can't leave them here, Julian panted as we dropped the 3rd box of books. The building manager is going to flip. It's a fire hazard. I don't care, I said, dropping a box of toiletries on top of the stack. It landed with a rattle of glass bottles. Let him come get them, or let the neighbors take them. Free Armani suits for anyone who fits a 40 regular. We built a wall of cardboard outside my door, a physical barrier. By the time we were done, the hallway was almost impassable. There, I said, dusting my hands off on my jeans. I looked at the wall of boxes. It looked like a barricade. Now he has to physically move his own baggage to get to me. Poetic, Julian said. You okay? I looked at the empty apartment behind me. It echoed now. It felt bigger, colder, but also cleaner. Ask me after I change the locks, I said. The locksmith arrived at 1:15 p.m. He was a burly guy named Dave with a tool belt that jingled and eyes that had seen every version of domestic disaster. He took one look at the wall of boxes in the hallway, then at my red-rimmed eyes, and didn't ask a single question. Standard deadbolt or the heavy duty? Dave asked, examining the door frame. Heavy duty, I said. The kind that stops a battering ram. You got it. He worked quickly, the drill whining as it bit into the wood. Metal shavings curled onto the floor. I watched him dismantle the old lock, the lock Elias had a key to, and felt a strange sense of satisfaction as it clattered onto the floor. My phone, which was sitting on the kitchen counter, lit up again. Incoming call, Elias. It was the 5th time in 20 minutes. I stared at the screen, watching his name flash. The photo attached to the contact was from our engagement shoot, him smiling, looking adoringly at me. It felt like looking at a stranger. You gonna answer that? Julian asked, leaning against the counter, sipping a lukewarm coffee. No. I picked up the phone. I didn't just decline the call. I went into settings, block caller, then I went to WhatsApp, block, Instagram, block, Facebook, block, email, filter to trash. He's going to find other ways, Julian warned. He's tenacious when his ego is bruised. Let him try, I said. The phone rang again immediately. Unknown number. See? Julian pointed. I picked it up. Hello? Mal, you can't just block me. Elias's voice was frantic, breathless. I'm borrowing my dad's driver's phone. We need to talk. You're being irrational. I'm being irrational? I asked, my voice deadly calm. Elias, do not call me again. I just want to explain. It's not. I hung up. Block number. 2 minutes later. Another unknown number. Dr. Hartwell, I answered. Maya, please stop hanging up. I hung up. Block number. He's cycling through phones, I told Julian. He's probably grabbing random people on the street. Change it, Julian said. Burn it down. He was right. I logged into my carrier's website on my laptop. I clicked change number. It cost $15, a bargain for peace of mind. The confirmation screen popped up. Your new number is active. My old phone died. No more ringing, no more vibrating. Silence. Dave, I called out to the locksmith. How we doing? Done, Dave said, holding out 2 shiny silver keys. Nobody gets in unless you let them in. I took the keys. They felt heavy, substantial. I put one in my pocket and handed the other to Julian. For emergencies, I said, and because you're the only man I trust right now. Julian took the key, his expression serious. I'll guard it with my life. Walking back into Metropolitan General 3 days later felt like walking onto a stage where everyone knew the script but me. The moment I swiped my badge at the entrance, I felt the eyes. The volunteer at the front desk stopped typing. 2 nurses near the elevator whispered behind their hands, their eyes darting toward me. They know, I thought. Of course they know. The video has 400,000 views now. I kept my chin up. I walked with the stride of a surgeon who has a schedule to keep. I didn't look left. I didn't look right. I walked straight to the locker room, changed into my scrubs, and tied my hair back. Blue scrubs, white coat, stethoscope, armor. Dr. Hartwell, the charge nurse, Brenda, nodded as I approached the station. Her eyes were kind, too kind, pitying. You're on the board for the pelvic reconstruction in OR4. Thank you, Brenda. Are you good to go? She asked, lowering her voice. Dr. Chang said, if you needed more time. I don't need time, I said, perhaps a little too sharply. I need a scalpel. I scrubbed in. The ritual was grounding. The smell of the antiseptic soap, the rough bristles of the brush against my skin. The water running over my hands, scrub, rinse, drip dry. I backed into OR4. The air was frigid, smelling of ozone and sterilized steel. The heart monitor was beeping a steady rhythm. The patient was already under, a blue drape covering everything but the shattered hip. Dr. Hartwell is scrubbing in, the anesthesiologist announced. I stepped up to the table. Good morning, everyone. 24-year-old male, motorcycle versus guardrail, complex acetabular fracture. Let's put him back together. For the next 6 hours, nothing existed but the bone. My world narrowed down to the surgical field. I wasn't the girl whose fiancé cheated on her. I wasn't the viral video star. I was a mechanic of the human body. I drilled. I placed screws. I contoured a titanium plate to fit the curve of the pelvis perfectly. Suction, I ordered. Drill. Screw, 40 millimeter. My hands were steady. Rock steady. The rage that had been vibrating in my chest for 3 days channeled itself into absolute focus. Every movement was precise, efficient. I was fixing something broken. I was taking a shattered mess and imposing order upon it. Plate is seated, I announced, tightening the final screw. Check fluoro. The X-ray monitor flashed the image. Perfect alignment. The hip was whole again. Beautiful work, doctor, the resident across from me said, sounding genuinely impressed. Close him up, I said, stepping back and peeling off my bloody gloves. I walked out of the OR, sweating, exhausted, and for the first time in 72 hours, I felt like I could breathe. The chaos was outside, and here I was a god. I was at the vending machine in the basement trying to decide between stale pretzels or a granola bar that looked like a brick when a shadow fell over me. Dr. Hartwell. I turned. It was Marcus Webb, the head of security. Marcus was a mountain of a man, 6'4", former military police with a shaved head and a neck as thick as my thigh. He rarely spoke to anyone unless they were in trouble. Marcus, I said, straightening up, is there a problem? Did I park in the wrong spot? No, ma'am, he said. His voice was a deep rumble. He looked around to make sure the hallway was empty, then stepped a little closer. I saw the video. I stiffened. Right, the video. My wife showed me, he continued. That guy, the one in the video, that's the guy who drives the silver Porsche, right? Comes here to pick you up sometimes, never parks in the lines? That's him, I admitted. Elias. Marcus nodded slowly, a look of profound distaste crossing his face. I don't like guys like that. Entitled. Think the rules don't apply to them. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. It wasn't the standard hospital security number. It was a business card with a cell number handwritten on the back. He's been calling the front desk, Marcus said, trying to get through to your SpectraLink. Trying to find out your schedule. My stomach dropped. He has? Yeah, we shut him down. But guys like that, they don't take no well. They like to show up. He handed me the card. This is my direct line, Marcus said. Not dispatch. Me. If you see him, if you hear he's in the building, if you even get a weird vibe, you call this number. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I took the card, feeling a lump form in my throat. Thank you, Marcus. Really. We look out for our own, Marcus said. He adjusted his belt. And Dr. Hartwell? If he does show up, I've been waiting for a reason to trespass him for those parking violations for 2 years. He gave me a small, grim smile. Good to know, I said, smiling back. I have a feeling you might get your chance. I hope so, Marcus said. Stay safe, Doc. He walked away, his heavy boots echoing in the corridor. I looked at the card. Marcus Webb, head of security. I wasn't just safe, I was fortified. It happened 2 days later. I was charting at the nurses' station on the second floor, which overlooked the main atrium lobby. The atrium was a massive glass-ceilinged space where visitors bought overpriced coffee and waited for news. Oh, wow, a nurse named Jessica whispered, looking over the balcony railing. Look at that. Look at what? I asked, not looking up from my iPad. Some guy down there. He looks like he's going to prom, and he has... My God, that's a lot of flowers. My head snapped up. I walked to the railing and looked down. There, striding through the automatic doors like he owned the building, was Elias. He was wearing his navy apology suit, the one he wore when he had to charm investors. His hair was perfectly coiffed, and in his arms he was carrying a floral arrangement that was honestly obscene. It was massive. Red roses, white lilies, orchids. It must have weighed 20 pounds. It was a walking garden. He was smiling. That charming, boyish smile that used to work on me. He was heading straight for the elevators. Oh no, I whispered. Is that him? Jessica asked, eyes wide. That's him. I reached for my phone to call Marcus, but I didn't need to. From the side corridor near the gift shop, 2 uniformed security guards stepped out. They moved with purpose, cutting off Elias's path to the elevators. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Elias stop. He looked confused. He gestured with the flowers, flashing that smile again. I'm just here to see my fiancé, his body language said. The guards didn't smile back. One of them pointed toward the exit. Elias's smile dropped. He took a step forward, trying to go around them. The guards stepped with him, forming a wall. Then Marcus appeared. He walked out of the security office like a tank rolling into battle. He didn't stop until he was nose to nose with Elias. The atrium had gone quiet. People were watching. I could hear Elias now. His voice was rising, echoing off the glass walls. "I just need 5 minutes," Elias shouted, his nice guy mask slipping. "I'm trying to apologize. She's my fiancé. You can't stop me from seeing her." "Sir," Marcus's voice boomed. It was a command voice trained to cut through chaos. "You have been told to leave. Dr. Hartwell does not wish to see you." "She doesn't know I'm here," Elias argued, shifting the heavy flowers. "Just let me go up. Once she sees the flowers—" "The flowers don't change the policy," Marcus said, crossing his arms. "You are disrupting the hospital. You are harassing a staff member. Leave, now." "This is ridiculous," Elias yelled, looking around for an audience, trying to find sympathy. "I'm fighting for love here. Is that a crime?" "Trespassing is a crime," Marcus said calmly. "And if you don't walk out those doors in 10 seconds, you're going out in cuffs." Elias turned red. He looked up. For a split second, his eyes locked with mine on the balcony. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just stood there, flanked by 3 nurses, looking down at him like he was a specimen in a jar. He saw me. He saw that I wasn't coming down. He saw that his movie moment was a flop. He threw the flowers on the ground, actually threw them. The vase shattered. Water splashed across the polished terrazzo floor. Roses scattered like debris. "Fine," Elias screamed. "Fine, keep the damn flowers." He spun around and stormed out, almost walking into the sliding glass door because it didn't open fast enough. "Clean up on aisle entitlement," Jessica whispered beside me. Marcus looked up at me again. He gave a sharp nod. I nodded back. 10 minutes later, I was in the lobby. The janitorial staff was sweeping up the glass, but the flowers, hundreds of dollars worth of pristine blooms, were piled on a cart. "What a waste," the janitor shook his head. "Rich people, huh?" Sarah, the volunteer coordinator, walked up. She was holding a clipboard and looking at the pile of roses with a pained expression. "We can't just throw these away," she said. "They're stunning. These are Ecuadorian roses. They cost like $5 a stem." I looked at the flowers. Then I looked at the trauma unit fundraiser poster on the easel nearby. "Sarah," I said, a wicked idea forming, "you're still looking for items for the silent auction next week, right?" "Always," she sighed. "Why?" "I have a donation." I pointed to the cart. "Rearrange them. Put them in nice vases. We'll auction them off." "We can't sell used apology flowers," Sarah laughed. "What's the provenance?" "Oh, the provenance is the best part," I said. "Do you have a marker and some cardstock?" We sat at the volunteer desk. I wrote the placard myself. I wanted the wording to be precise. Item number 42, the Consequences Bouquet, generously donated by Mr. Elias Carver, involuntarily. These premium Ecuadorian roses were originally intended as a grand gesture to win back an ex-fiancé following a 6-month affair with her best friend's girlfriend. The donor was intercepted by hospital security and escorted off the premises before delivery could be made. All proceeds go to the trauma unit because fixing broken bones is cheaper than fixing a broken ego. Starting bid, $50. Sarah read it, her hand flying to her mouth. "Mallory, we can't put this up." "Why not?" I asked innocently. "It's the truth, and it's for charity." Sarah looked at the card. Then she looked at the flowers. A slow grin spread across her face. "I'll get the nice vases from the gift shop," she said. We set it up right in the middle of the lobby. People stopped. They read the card. They laughed. They took pictures. By the end of the day, the bid sheet was full. $50. Nurse J, $75. Dr. Patel, $100. Team Mallory, $200. Marcus Webb. I walked by the display on my way out. The current bid was up to $450. I took a picture of the display, framing the brutal placard perfectly with the roses in the background. I sent it to Julian. Me, turning trash into treasure. Julian, you are my hero. Also, I have news. Come over. Julian's apartment was a stark contrast to mine. Dark wood, leather, books everywhere. When I arrived, he was sitting at his dining table, surrounded by stacks of paper. His laptop was open, casting a blue glow on his tired face. "What is all this?" I asked, putting my bag down. "This," Julian said, picking up a stapled document, "is the smoking gun, or at least the smoking credit card statement." He motioned for me to sit. "I have a friend in forensic accounting," Julian explained. "I didn't ask how he got these, plausible deniability, but these are the statements for the Carver Pharmaceuticals corporate Amex, the one Elias carries." He pushed a highlighted sheet toward me. "Look at the dates." I scanned the yellow highlighter marks. NOV 12, Four Seasons Miami, 840, NOV 12, STK Steakhouse Miami, 320, NOV 13, room service, $112. November 12th, I said. That was the pharmaceutical conference. "Correct," Julian said. "Now look at this." He pulled out a printed invoice from the art gallery where Veronica worked. Client invoice, NOV 12. Consultation hours, 4. Location, on-site, Miami Art Basel. Expense, hotel reimbursement. "She billed her gallery for the trip," Julian said, his voice hard. "She claimed she was scouting art for a client, but she was in a hotel room paid for by Elias's company. So Elias is embezzling corporate funds to pay for his affair," I said, putting it together. "And Veronica is committing billing fraud." "Exactly. It's not huge money in the grand scheme of a billion-dollar company," Julian said. "But it's misuse of funds. It's tax fraud. And for Veronica, it's straight-up theft from her employer." He flipped through more pages. Jan 14, The Ritz, Philadelphia, Feb 2, dinner at Le Bernardin, NYC. "Every single business trip aligns with her client meetings," Julian said. "They weren't just cheating, Mal. They were funding it with other people's money." I felt a fresh wave of disgust. They felt so entitled to it, like the world owed them their little romance. "What do we do with it?" I asked. "We compile it," Julian said. "We make a nice, neat package, and we send it to the people who sign their paychecks." "I need the itemized receipts," Julian muttered, typing furiously on his laptop. "The credit card statement shows the total, but the itemized receipt shows the guest names. If I can get the folio from the hotel." He clicked a link. A loading bar spun. "Access denied." He frowned. "That's weird." He tried another link, a backdoor into the corporate expense portal he had acquired. "User locked out. Security alert." "Shit," Julian hissed. "What?" "They're scrubbing it," he said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Someone triggered a security protocol. Elias's dad must have found out. They're locking down the servers." The screen went black for a second, then rebooted. No, Julian groaned. "I didn't download the January folio yet." "Is it gone?" I asked, leaning over his shoulder. "The digital access is gone," Julian said, slamming the laptop shut. "They pulled the plug. I can't get back in without tripping alarms that would get my friend fired or arrested." He looked at the stack of papers on the table. It was substantial, but it wasn't complete. We had the dates, we had the totals, but we lost the smoking gun of the guest names on the hotel receipts. "We lost the undeniable proof," Julian said, running his hands through his hair. "Without the names on the room bill, Elias can claim he was there alone. He can claim the coincidence of dates is just that, coincidence." "We have the photos," I reminded him, "the text messages, the confession in the hallway." "That's social proof," Julian argued. "This was legal proof, financial proof. This was the stuff that gets people fired." I looked at the stack of highlighted statements. "It's enough," I said firmly. "It's enough to raise doubt. It's enough to make an employer investigate. We don't need to convict them, Julian. We just need to light the fuse." Julian took a deep breath. He looked at the papers, then at me. "You're right," he said. "We send what we have. We bluff on the rest. We tell them, if this is what we found, imagine what you'll find if you audit them. Exactly, I said. Let's burn them down. The email arrived at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was awake, of course. Sleep was still a foreign concept. From Dr. Heinrich Müller, University Hospital Zurich. Subject, fellowship offer, spinal trauma. I stared at the screen. I had applied for this fellowship 6 months ago on a whim before the wedding planning consumed my life. I had completely forgotten about it. Dear Dr. Hartwell, we have reviewed your case studies on pelvic reconstruction. Impressed by your technique. Would like to offer you a 12-month position starting immediately. Zurich, Switzerland, 4,000 miles away from Elias, 4,000 miles away from the hallway video, 4,000 miles away from the pitying looks in the break room. I got out of bed and walked to the window. The city lights of Chicago blinked back at me. This was my home. My parents were here. My life was here. But was it? My life here was tainted. Every street corner reminded me of him. Every restaurant was a place we had eaten. My apartment was a fortress of solitude. I needed to scrub out. I needed a complete sterilization of my environment. I sat back down at my laptop. Reply, I accept. The next morning, I typed one final email. Not to Zurich, but to Elias. To Elias Carver. From Mallory Hayes. Subject, goodbye. Elias, I'm leaving. Not just the apartment, but the country. I accepted a job in Switzerland. I'm not writing this to tell you where I am. You won't find me. I'm writing this because despite everything, I want you to know why I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. You are a person who breaks things because you are terrified of being whole. You broke us. You broke Julian. You broke Veronica, though she helped. I hope you get help. Real help, not the kind you buy. But I won't be around to see it. Do not reply. This address will be deactivated in 10 minutes. M. I hit send. Then I deleted the email account. 3 months later, it's been 90 days since I got on that plane. The air in Zurich is cleaner, crisper. Or maybe it's just easier to breathe when you aren't carrying the dead weight of a lie. The fellowship is grueling. Doctor. Müller is a tyrant in the OR, but he respects precision, and I have precision to spare. I work 12 hours a day, fixing spines, rebuilding people who think they'll never walk again. It's good work. It's honest work. I'm also in therapy. Mandatory for the program, but turns out I needed it. My therapist, Dr. Klein, is a stern Swiss woman who doesn't let me hide behind my surgical detachment. Control is not healing, she told me last week. Control is just a different form of hiding. I'm working on it. As for the fallout back home, Julian keeps me updated. The Elias situation. The paper trail worked. Julian sent the packet to the Carver Pharmaceuticals board. They didn't care about the cheating, but they cared about the tax liability. Elias was quietly removed from the board to pursue personal interests. His allowance has apparently been slashed. He's in court-mandated therapy after violating a restraining order Veronica eventually filed against him. Oh, the irony. The Veronica situation. Her gallery fired her. The billing fraud was too much liability. She's currently working as a barista and trying to pivot to being a mental health influencer on TikTok. Her comment section is still a war zone. She tried to reach out to Julian once. He didn't even block her. He just left her on red. That feels like a bigger power move. Me. I'm sitting in a cafe by the Limit River, drinking coffee that costs too much, watching the swans. I'm alone. And for the first time in my life, alone doesn't feel like a failure. It feels like a clean slate. I'm Dr. Mallory Hayes. I fix broken things. And finally, I'm starting to fix myself. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.